Please tell me a world where it makes sense that a 30-year-old black woman in the state of Georgia who has been brain dead for over 90 days has been kept on life support simply because at the time of her being declared brain dead, she was 9 weeks pregnant. And because Georgia has such strict abortion laws that makes it a crime to terminate pregnancy after 6 weeks, these doctors, their hands are tied and they literally cannot terminate the pregnancy despite the fact that this woman is brain dead. But before I even talk about how this is unethical and immoral, let's talk about the fact that her even being brain dead is a result of medical negligence and, dare I say, racism. Because over 90 days ago, back in February, Adriana Smith actually went to the hospital for strong headaches and migraines. And surprise, surprise, they didn't run any tests, they didn't do a CT scan, all they did was give her medication for her headaches. Had they run a scan, they would have realized she had blood clots on her brain.
I'm speaking today as a nurse, a legal consultant, and most importantly, a black woman with a voice in healthcare and the law. And let me tell you something. In all of my years of working on critical cases, I have never encountered anything like this. Adriana Smith, 30 years old, a nurse, a mother, declared brain dead after suffering a catastrophic medical emergency. In our field, that's not a coma, that's legal death. Brain death means no cerebral activity, no recovery. But because Adriana was just 9 weeks pregnant at the time, she's still on life support. Not for her, but for the fetus for 90 plus days. And her family, her mother, her partner, her young son, who thinks she's asleep, they've been told their voices don't matter.
Y'all know because of fucking Georgia heartbeat law, this 30-year-old woman, Adriana Smith, who physically and legally has been pronounced deceased as of 90 days ago, because she was pregnant at the time of her passing, the Georgia heartbeat law, against her family wishes and everything, they can't even properly bury this young, beautiful lady. Because of Georgia's heartbeat law, they're literally keeping her body on a fucking ventilator to pretty much carry the baby damn near to full term. Y'all are going to force that baby to live in this world without its mother, to never know her sweet hug, her sweet voice, her touch, her laugh. She won't be here to teach them anything.
Ladies and gentlemen, what if I told you that in 2025, in the United States of America, a woman declared legally brain dead could be kept on life support, not because of her, not because of science, not because of family consent, but because of law. This is not fiction. This is the story of Adriana Smith, a 30-year-old black woman from Georgia who was declared brain dead while just 9 weeks pregnant. Her family, devastated and desperate for peace, was denied the right to say goodbye. Why? Because a fetal heartbeat was detected and the state of Georgia's heartbeat law took over. This video is not just a reaction, it's a reflection. A reflection of how law, medicine, morality, and systemic inequality collide in the most disturbing of ways. Adriana's body is no longer her own. Her family no longer has a voice. Her death is not being honored. Instead, her body is being used literally as an incubator. So, this story isn't just about abortion laws or politics. It's about the erosion of bodily autonomy, the disregard for black women's pain, and the disturbing new precedent being quietly established in America. Let's talk about what this means for women, for families, and for justice. Guys, let us begin. I will be back with my further commentary.
Please tell me a world where it makes sense that a 30-year-old black woman in the state of Georgia who has been brain dead for over 90 days has been kept on life support simply because at the time of her being declared brain dead, she was 9 weeks pregnant. And because Georgia has such strict abortion laws that makes it a crime to terminate pregnancy after 6 weeks, these doctors, their hands are tied and they literally cannot terminate the pregnancy despite the fact that this woman is brain dead. But before I even talk about how this is unethical and immoral, let's talk about the fact that her even being brain dead is a result of medical negligence and, dare I say, racism. Because over 90 days ago, back in February, Adriana Smith actually went to the hospital for strong headaches and migraines. And surprise, surprise, they didn't run any tests, they didn't do a CT scan, all they did was give her medication for her headaches. Had they run a scan, they would have realized she had blood clots on her brain. But what's new? We already know there is very little protection for black maternal health. Even outside of pregnancy, we know that people just don't believe black women. But what's actually pissing me off about this story even more is the fact that her family does not want her to be on life support. And despite her mother's wishes, because politicians have wielded their power over all of our bodies, her daughter has now become an incubator for a fetus that cannot live outside of her body by itself. In fact, in Georgia, a fetus can't live outside of the body until 32 weeks. So you know what that means? They're going to keep this girl on life support from 9 weeks to 32 weeks, and then will induce her. They're going to induce labor on a brain dead, unconscious woman. And there's more. Not only does the family not have any decision-making power, they're also incurring the medical cost, the bills. On top of the fact that they have already proven via ultrasound that this fetus has fluid on its brain, meaning not only is there a chance of low survival, there is a chance of serious defect and disability. So there's a clear disregard for the grieving family, a clear disregard for the unconscious and brain dead mother, and a clear disregard for the fetus, but y'all claim to be pro-life. Baby, no. Come a little closer. You're pro-birth. And as a black woman who is currently 27 weeks pregnant, I am disgusted. This whole story is just disgusting.
I'm speaking today as a nurse, a legal consultant, and most importantly, a black woman with a voice in healthcare and the law. And let me tell you something. In all of my years of working on critical cases, I have never encountered anything like this. Adriana Smith, 30 years old, a nurse, a mother, declared brain dead after suffering a catastrophic medical emergency. In our field, that's not a coma, that's legal death. Brain death means no cerebral activity, no recovery. But because Adriana was just 9 weeks pregnant at the time, she's still on life support. Not for her, but for the fetus for 90 plus days. And her family, her mother, her partner, her young son, who thinks she's asleep, they've been told their voices don't matter because of Georgia's heartbeat law. The law says once fetal cardiac activity is detected around 6 weeks, no termination, no exceptions for brain death, no acknowledgement of Adriana's legal status as deceased. So her body is being medically sustained, intubated, monitored, housed in the ICU to grow a fetus with an unknown prognosis. Doctors already suspect fluid on the brain. The outcome is uncertain. This isn't just tragic, it is absolutely traumatizing. And it raises ethical and legal questions we just cannot ignore. Who decides care when the patient is legally dead? Why is the family's legal authority being denied? And what precedent does this set for bodily autonomy, especially for Black women? Nurses are trained to advocate. Legal consultants such as myself are trained to analyze the gaps. In this case, this is a massive gaping hole in law and humanity. I stand with Adriana's family, and I demand the law catch up with both medical science and compassion. Tell me, should a legally dead woman's body be forced to carry a pregnancy because of the law?
Did y'all know because of fucking Georgia heartbeat law, this 30-year-old woman, Adriana Smith, who physically and legally has been pronounced deceased as of 90 days ago, because she was pregnant at the time of her passing, the Georgia heartbeat law, against her family wishes and everything, they can't even properly bury this young, beautiful lady. Because of Georgia's heartbeat law, they're literally keeping her body on a fucking ventilator to pretty much carry the baby damn near to full term. Y'all are gonna force that baby to live in this world without its mother, to never know her sweet hug, her sweet voice, her touch, her laugh. She won't be here to teach them anything. Y'all are fucked up. And I hate this world. I fuck y'all. And whoever sit up there and make them kind of laws, how the hell do y'all think this is better for her family and that child? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, it don't even make sense.
If you've been following the case of Adriana Smith in Georgia, she was put on life support in February of this year after being declared brain dead because she was 9 weeks pregnant at the time. 3 months later, she is still on life support today, and her family has no option to end life support. They must pay for the cost of life support, and this will continue until either the fetus is declared dead or the pregnancy is carried to term, which would be in another 4 months. There's a few details from this case that I want to highlight. First of all, there's this image of her circulating online. That is an image from a previous pregnancy, which I think is really dishonest. You don't look like that when you're 9 weeks pregnant, and that image frames things in a different light. Another thing to highlight is that before she had her episode which led to her being declared brain dead, she actually did go to seek care complaining of headaches. Yet she was dismissed with prescriptions before receiving any tests or scans, which I believe is a failure of the healthcare system. We have seen this before with women, and especially women of color, where their pain or complaints are dismissed at a higher rate than other types of patients, and that's something that needs to be taken into account. Another thing to understand is that the family has no agency in this matter, only the state government does. So because of Georgia's 6-week abortion ban, the family has to watch as their child is being kept alive. And her own mother stated that they might have kept her on life support, but the fact that they had no choice at all is highly concerning. This also raises a great deal of legal concerns. For instance, say that I really want to have a child with someone because I have mental issues and I have this sort of fantasy in my head that someone who does not consent to this really wants to have a child with me. Well, what happens if I impregnate them against their will and then cause them to have a TBI, which causes them to go unconscious? Or what happens if I administer a certain amount of illicit substances that causes them to go into a coma? How is that legally ethical if under those circumstances I can impregnate someone and get to choose who I get to impregnate, and they have no agency to consent to this, nor does their family have any agency over mine? There's also a question of indignity to the deceased. For example, if someone dies, you are not allowed to simply take their remains and use them for whatever purpose that you want. There are very clear laws as to how you can handle human remains. So for the state government to declare this being property of the state, I would argue that there's a case to be made that this is an indignity to someone's wishes. There's also the case of Marlise Muniz in the state of Texas. In 2013, she suffered an embolism and was declared brain dead, but she was kept on life support because she was 14 weeks pregnant at the time. Now, Muniz and her partner both worked as paramedics, and she was very vocal that she did not want to be kept on life support. Despite this, and despite the fact that her fetus was most likely non-viable due to the fact that, just like Adriana Smith's pregnancy, it had hydrocephalus, and it was so deformed that they could not determine the fetus's sex, it still took a legal battle and 3 months before she was eventually taken off of life support. I have a lot of moral reservations about this case, and my general perspective regarding abortion is that I do not have the ability to determine what is best for every single pregnancy. Therefore, neither does the government. For that matter, I believe that the best thing to do is to leave that decision up to the person in question and their doctor or their next of kin if necessary. And generally speaking, when this is left up to a state government, what you'll see is that they do not apply the law equally to everyone, which usually leads to things like forced sterilizations. It's also important to note that in 12 states, even if you have an advance directive, that is, a set of instructions as to what's to happen to honor your wishes, if you're in a coma, a vegetative state, or you're declared brain dead, in 12 states, that becomes void if you are pregnant. Therefore, the state gets to determine what's to happen to you, not your own written wishes. Ultimately, what we are seeing is the ramifications of a ban that is based not on medicine nor science, but the interpretation of a religious text. And we've already seen 2 people die in Georgia because of these abortion bans last year, and now we are seeing this case where someone is literally being kept alive against their family's wishes as little more than an incubator.
Imagine you're 2 months into your pregnancy. And guys, just put on your imagination caps for a second. You start to have headaches, and so you go to the hospital and they end up sending you back home. Now, not long after this happens, your family finds you unresponsive and they bring you back to the hospital. And unfortunately, it's too late and you are declared brain dead. But here's the thing. Remember when I said that you're pregnant? The hospital is now forced by law to keep your body alive, even though you were brain dead. Clinically, you're not there anymore. But because your fetus has a heartbeat, your body is kept alive to keep that fetus alive. Your name was Adriana Smith, and I wish that this was imagination, but it's not. And Adriana's family did not have any say in the care that she was given. Now her baby is approximately 21 weeks, and by Georgia's heartbeat law, her body essentially is an incubator. If you've ever watched The Handmaid's Tale, this exact same thing happens. Now, I want you to know that The Handmaid's Tale is set in a dystopian future, and it's just crazy that this is real life. Several OB-GYNs are concerned because this is something unprecedented. It's the fact that the family did not have a single choice or a say, And I think a family member put it quite nicely. It's not even that they would have aborted the baby, it's the fact that they didn't get a choice. There is no black and white with this situation, or any situation for that matter. This isn't even about pro choice or pro life at this point, but we are never actually concerned for the future and the well being of the people that we are talking about and are concerned about. Talk about Adriana, talk about her family, talk about this baby. I just hope that we can do better.
Just in case people don't realize, dead women don't grow babies. That woman is dead. If you take her off life support, she's dead. And you don't get to manually keep somebody alive to grow a baby. That's disgusting. That's fucked up. She's dead. There's a 9-week-old sack of tissues. It's going with her, or it should have gone with her. You don't get to keep a woman's heart beating when she's dead. So manually beating this heart, keeping this heart going as an incubator for a baby. You don't get to do that. And sit her in a hospital for 6.5 months until it's viable. If the baby were viable or close to being viable, like a week, maybe. Not 7 months in the fucking hospital to grow a baby. That's an incubator. She's dead. Dead women don't grow babies. Also, her life matters and her death matters. She deserves to leave this world gracefully and with integrity, and when she dies, when she actually dies. You don't get to keep somebody alive to grow a baby. I don't know why people don't understand that. It's not that we don't want the baby to die. You guys pick that argument, but you don't talk about the woman. Her parents, the two people that formed her and had her as a baby, would like her to rest in peace. But they don't even get the say in that. The government does. It's fucking disgusting. And then when the baby is ready for harvest, they're going to mutilate her corpse and cut it open and take the baby. What if there were no next of kin? What if there was no family left? No grandparents, anything? Where would that baby go? Where would that baby go, do you think? Somewhere safe? What the fuck are you talking about? You can't do this to women. You can't do this. It's mutilation of a corpse. It's fucking wrong and disgusting. And anybody who supports it is mentally ill.
Now, let's break down this, because it's deeper than just a legal complication. Under Georgia's heartbeat law, it's illegal to terminate a pregnancy after 6 weeks. Often before many even know they're pregnant. The law makes no exception for brain death. That's right, even if the pregnant individual is legally dead, if a fetal heartbeat is detected, life support cannot be turned off. Let that sink in. Adriana Smith was declared brain dead. According to medical science and legal definitions, she had passed. Her family should have had the right to decide how to handle her remains, to grieve, to bury her, to find peace. Instead, the law stripped them of that right, commanding doctors to continue pumping oxygen into a lifeless body. And here's where it gets even more disturbing. This is not about saving the baby. Reports say the fetus had fluid on the brain, a serious medical condition. There is no assurance of survival, no promise of life, but still the hospital under legal pressure is keeping a dead woman alive because heartbeat was hard. And who bears the cost? Her grieving family, of course. Yes, you heard that right. They are paying for this, paying to keep their loved one's corpse function as a vessel. Her 5-year-old son thinks his mother is asleep. Her partner is helpless. Her mother is devastated. Where is the humanity in this? And ask yourself, if Adriana was not a black woman, would this have happened? Would her concerns at the hospital have been ignored when she first complained of severe headaches and migraines? Reports suggest she was dismissed, sent home with painkillers, and not even scanned. Days later, brain dead. This is not just about a failed system. It's about a system that fails specific people over and over again. So, my beautiful brothers and sisters in the United States of America, people of color, as I come to the end of this video, let's step back now and look at the broader implications, because this case does not exist in a vacuum. Across 12 states in the United States of America, if a pregnant person becomes brain dead, even with a legal advance directive stating do not rescue state, the state can override it. Why? Because the fetus is prioritized even over the dead individual's own written wishes. Think about that. Bodily autonomy is erased, not just in life, but in death. And while we debate pro-life and pro-choice, we must ask ourselves, what about being pro-human dignity? What about the trauma inflicted on families who told you you no longer have a say? How is it ethical, moral, or humane to keep a deceased woman on life support against the will of her loved ones, especially when the chances of a viable birth are slim to none? And it does not stop there. Adriana's case is now being whispered about in legal circles as a potential precedent. Think about what that means. If this becomes standard, every time a pregnant person is declared brain dead, the state may force life support to continue. Why? Because it blusters fetal threshold arguments, it threatens laws like the heartbeat bill, it makes them courtroom proof. If this does not alarm you, it should. Well, this case is being used not to protect life, but to protect legislation. And it's happening quietly, with minimal media coverage, with no national outrage. People are not talking about it. But let me be clear here. Adriana's family should not have to fight the state to honor her death. No family should. Yet in Georgia, they are powerless because the law sees Adriana only as a vessel, no longer as a person. And that's the most humanizing part of this entire story. And for black women, this hits even harder. Yeah, you heard me right. For decades, black women have faced dismissive healthcare and underdiagnosed conditions and alarming high maternal mortality rates. Studies have shown their pain is routinely underestimated, their complaints ignored. Adriana walked into a hospital seeking for help. She left in a coma, and now she's being kept alive by the very system that failed her. This isn't care, this is control, and it's time to demand for change. This video is more than just a reaction, it's a rallying cry, a wake-up call to challenge the system that allows laws to override humanity, a system that sees laws before lives, policies before people. To Adriana Smith's family, our hearts are with you. To lawmakers, your silence speaks volume. And to the rest of us, if we don't stand up for her, then we have failed her. We have literally failed Adriana Smith completely. I don't know what you think about this video, but it's so heart-wrenching, it's heartbreaking, it even brings tears. As I speak, it's so hard for me to do this video. But guys, tell me what you think in the comments. Most definitely, you leave a reply, right? Subscribe this channel if this is the content you really like and enjoy. Give this video a thumbs up so that we can share this message and make awareness to make sure that Adriana Smith gets justice. Let her body be given the decency it deserves in death. Let her family be given the chance to grieve her. Thank you for listening. This is the Diaspora Review. I've been your host for today, Sam. Peace out.